Okay. So with this recent grant we've been having and like all of the sharing on social media and connecting to different networks, it's really interesting getting all the support from different like people that may not be connected with Mama Bird and be voting for us. How does it feel knowing that so many strangers are supporting us by voting for this grant?
Um, no, it feels kind of pretty good. Even people we do know, that actually don't know much about Mama Bird, because I've made a lot of friends at CU Denver, and I see them like sliding up on my posts or my stories saying, "Hey, I just voted," or "How do I vote? Can you show me?" So it's been very, like eye-opening how much support that we have. Because sometimes you forget that there's people out there who are rooting for you, even if they don't know you. So I don't know, it's been very enlightening to see that. Yeah.
That's cool that people have been swiping up on your story. I've been seeing you post on Snapchat, and it's cool that people are like actually engaging and wanting to help out in that way. And I think that shows that like when you're doing something good, people want to help out. And so it's really cool to get that reaction and feedback. And I just have noticed like all the different ways that like people we've done things for or with in the past, or like coming back and like sharing and helping us with getting the word out with this grant and voting for us. And so I think it just shows the importance of relationships and building those, because like it always helps us when we're trying to do something good like this and win a grant or like just get word out. Those relationships we have with people are so important, so it's cool to like see that in real time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's been really good. And seeing like us go up on the leadership the leaderboard has been also like, yeah, just people out there um that probably just was scrolling through the contest and saw us and they were inspired to vote. That's pretty
Yeah, that's also really cool because it's out of 200 people.
cool. Mm.
So to see us like move up out of that many like groups of organizations is really cool. It like gives me hope that what we're doing actually is important and has an impact, because like we went from I think the 84th place up to I think we're in the 20s right now. And so it's really cool to like see that momentum and just see like how people actually taking the time to vote really does make a difference, and why it's important for us to keep pushing for people to vote. Because you see like it move up the leaderboard, and like being able to watch it in real time is really cool. And just have to hope that that momentum stays through.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think we will. I don't know how many days we have left. I think like 5 more days. I think. But yeah, I think we'll stay up there as long as people continue voting.
I think this leads into why like people can see that the work we're doing has an impact in so many ways. It touches so many parts of important work that needs to be done with capturing people's stories and empowering young, historically marginalized women and people. And like in I feel like in a lot of our ways throughout times we've talked and just throughout these few years that we've been doing Mama Bird, it's impacted us in so many ways. And so what ways would you say that it's impacted you, and how do you see it continuing to impact you moving forward long term?
I'd say Albert has impacted me with how I identify myself and how I view myself. When I joined Mongbird, I was very lost in my identity and how to, view myself and how to introduce myself and present myself. Um, and now I'm more open with who I am and what I believe in my opinions. I tended, at least when I was younger, I think I started Mongbird when I was 17. I'm 19 now. Um, and yeah, when I was younger, I tended to like mold my personality and my identity based on the people I was around. So that way they were more comfortable with me. And I was so aware of everything I did and say, because I was like, okay, if I say something wrong, they might take that and base it off all Black people, all Muslim people, all women. So I was always so careful with what I said and how I said things, so that way people won't get offended or they won't, their own worldview won't be hurt. But with Mama Bird, um, I've learned to kind of accept my identity and who I am as a person and not try to make it more manageable for other people. I am who I am and I present myself the way I am. And if that confuses people or scares people, that's their problem, not mine. I shouldn't be trying to you know, change myself so that way other people are more comfortable with being in my presence. So that's one way it has impacted me. Another way, this kind of ties into the other question about what we've learned from interviews and wisdom interviews. Those interviews, I still think about them time to time when I'm doing something. The one that has stuck out to me was a one with this immigrant called Paola, and she talked about how Americans work too much and how we need to have some fun. So this summer I spent time. I of course have been working like a lot, but at the same time I'm like, okay, if I literally take an hour walking around the neighborhood with my siblings, I'll be fine. That won't hurt me. So like these little like phrases that they say that just stick to you, and they continue to impact the way I live and work with my life. Um, but yeah, how has it impacted you?
I'm so glad to hear you talk about like being pushed to not kind of sugarcoat things for people, because I feel like our whole lives we're forced to fit into this box, to be seen as a certain way, to be seen as exceptional, to be seen as perfect, in order to like not be seen as the worst parts of our race or our group identity. And I think that's so important for us to be able to like be empowered in that way, to know that we can speak our truth. Over the summer, well, just in general, I feel like Mama Bird has pushed me to be more confident. I think I probably had some pretty bad social anxiety growing up or something, because I just was always so nervous to like have conversations with people and reach out to people and make those relationships and connections. But like Mama Bird, like through conducting interviews with strangers, I feel like that was a really big thing to push me to be okay with speaking out and like talking with people, and knowing that like people are like, there's good people in the world, and it's okay to like get close to people and connect with them in that way, even if they may not physically look like you. It allows us to find that human connection in so many ways, and I feel like I've been impacted by that and learned that, and been able to see my potential in that way. And kind of in connection to you talking about speaking your voice, I'm in this leadership program called Invest, and we had this like summer trip that we went on, and there was a component where we were in Taos, and we met with some activists from this organization called Visionary Organizing Lab, and they talked a lot about listening to our inner voices and speaking our truth, and how like so many people in the world are like, they're taught to ignore that inner voice and we don't do it. And that's a big reason why we've ended up in the position that we're in, because when we notice that something feels wrong, or some like, we need to change something about our lives, we're taught to not listen to that. And so it's important to speak up, even if it might mean making someone uncomfortable, or um, making people, be annoyed or upset. Because if it's your truth, it's important to have those conversations. And it's cool that Mama Bird is like pushing us to do that and have those sometimes uncomfortable conversations, because we learn and grow so much from those. And I feel like that's how I've learned and grown so much, is through having those conversations that I was scared of or uncomfortable with, and not being scared to say what I feel like needs to be said. And I feel like it's just going to continue to allow me to like do something cool with my degree. I'm in media production, and so it's cool to like do something storytelling related in general. I think it's just interesting to learn from people and hear about their wisdom interviews, like you said, like just learning these like key things from people that are older and have experienced that, and being able to hear that from someone that may be older than us or more experienced in life, and like then taking those little pieces and implementing it into our daily lives has also been a really cool thing that I also agree with, that I've been able to do and learn from.
Yeah, definitely. I had the same issues with conversations, um, and talking to people. I was very like shy. And it took me. The thing is, like, when I talk to people, I don't have a problem having a conversation. It's just that anxiety before it. It takes me like so long to just prepare, for an interview, or prepare to like talk to someone. And now it just comes naturally, and reaching out to people comes naturally, and responding comes naturally, because we've done it so many times, that I don't have to take like this extra day before just worrying about, okay, um, how will this conversation go? What topics will be covered? It's just like you're talking to another human being, and being open to that connection, being open to listening to people. Um, but yeah, you made some really good points about owning your truth, and Mama Bear has, I think, played a big part in that. Even in my personal relationships, before I was like scared to like call out people, that are close to me when they said something like I didn't like, or they said something that kind of didn't fit what my values or how I see certain topics, such as like, sexism and the role a woman plays, and of course race. Before I was just like, I'm just gonna let them say what they want to say until the conversation is over. But with Mama Bird, I've learned to kind of say my truth, and if someone is actually close to me and actually, cares about me and my opinion, they won't try to, they won't get, I mean, of course, if they disagree with it, it's okay for people to disagree with what you're thinking. That's a whole different thing if they totally like shut it down and start, attacking you as a person. Um, so that's what I've learned with Mama Bird also, is to just say what I have to say, and also accepting when we're wrong, because Mama Bird is, we are a diverse team, and we do have some ideas that are kind of conflicting with each other's at times. We're not always like completely 100% about, different topics, but at the same time, we learn to accept each other's opinions and accept those differences that we do have with each other, and respect that. So that's also, I think, an important skill to have, not just in Mama Bird, but in life in general.
I feel like that's something I've been thinking about so much as well also, is just like realizing the importance of not like causing arguments or like strife between people that you know just because you have a different viewpoint, but understanding the importance of speaking up about it in a respectful way, and like why that is such a necessary thing to do, and like how Mama Bird empowers us to do that by like allowing us to speak up and tell our stories, because it starts with us telling the truth about our stories and about who we are, and advocating for ourselves, and like doing that within our like private lives, our personal lives, and also within the bigger sphere and like realm of things, so that when those issues come up, we're able to like come at it better and with a better understanding. um I just agree with everything you said, and how like it makes you think about the like talking about things that may be difficult or that you may be pushing aside, because it can build relationships at the end of the day as well. And that's what's so important in today's world that's so messed up in so many ways, is like building those relationships even with people that we don't disagree with, because in a new world that we're wanting to create and envision, we're going to have to incorporate all people in that world, even ones that we disagree with. And so it's important to start by like building those relationships and finding that common ground, so that like a new world can be built together, and a new understanding and like better relationships can be built together. So I think that's awesome that we both have been getting that from Mama Bird, and like finding ways to get that and incorporate that within our own personal lives, because I feel like people see by example, and it creates a ripple effect of people engaging in those important conversations and looking within themselves and seeing, okay, like what is it that I'm trying to like hide or push aside, and how can I bring this up and like speak my truth to others and to myself in a respectful way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even though Mama Bear this summer we haven't been super active, most of us have been doing different things. Um, I feel like it's still been an important part of our life this summer. It's still there, even if we're not like physically, in the same room, or physically on meetings, or doing these things. Um, it still, I feel like, was there for me, still carrying it. Whenever I met someone new, I always mentioned Mama Bird, like, oh yeah, I'm part of this organization. And everybody's always, impressed and um looking forward to learn more about Mama Bird. So yeah, it's, Mama Bird is always here.
Mama Bird has also been, it does things beyond like mental benefits, I guess. We've gotten like material benefits from Mama Bird too, which is really cool. Like for example, like we get money from the interviews that we do, and this grant also helps us and people that are involved in Mama Bird in so many ways. And Dr. Clark has generously put a lot of his own money into Mama Bird, in order to keep it sustained, and in order to allow us to like feel empowered in that way as well. And so like, how have the ways that money has been implemented in Mama Bread impacted you and continues to impact you and your family?
Um, Money. I feel like we don't sometimes want to admit how much power that money does have over our lives, but money is, especially in America, since we are a capitalist state. Um, Money is a big part of the livelihood of people. And people do say that money does not make you happy, but to a certain degree, money does provide stability and balance in people's lives. And a lot of people do tend to stress about money, because money brings food, money brings shelter, money brings um, all these things. So to be able to not only learn from these interviews and connect to a diverse group of people, but also gain some sort of financial stability from Mama Bird, it's it's very helpful, um, because as I said, money is a big part of, you know, our livelihood. And I think that if more people, more, young women of color had money and had financial stability, the more options they will have to be creative. Um, because when you're concerned about when you're going to have your next meal, when you're concerned about um, if you're going to be still, if you're still going to have a roof over your head for the next few months, you don't have, I guess, the luxury to be creative, the luxury to create all these things, all these projects, to be part and to be engaged in your community. And I think by being able to also engage in the community, but also make this money and have this stability in our lives, it opens up, this whole new version of us where we are focused on creating the best product, creating the best service for people. Um, and that's how I kind of viewed Mama Bird. Because Mama Bird, in a way, uh, it, that's that stability. I don't know. That's the biggest part to think about financial, the financial aspect of our is providing that stability, so that way we have that time and that that energy that could be spent on stressing about the financial aspect. All of that goes into creating a good service and also into other aspects of things that we're doing in life, because we do have other things that we're doing outside of Mama Bird, that Mama Bird has, of course, impacted us to be part of. But um, yeah, that's my little spiel about it.
I definitely completely agree with everything you're saying, especially I align with like it's so hard to like want to see the idea of money in that positive light because of how it's like attached to such a negative system. And I definitely like want to imagine a system where that's not necessary. Money isn't necessary. The economy that we have isn't what the economy that we use in the future. And I think it's important to continue to have that hope and to imagine that world and like take steps toward to get there. Um, and it just makes me think about a lot, like kind of what you were saying, how like when you don't have like housing or those necessities, you don't have the luxury of being creative or moving forward in that way. And I think about that a lot, and how like how important having your basic needs met are. Over the summer we had actually did a project where we talked about a lot about the past and how we got to where we are today, into the capitalistic patriarchal racial system that we have today, and like what led to that. And then we talked about like how to imagine a new world beyond that, because the teachers talked a lot about how we're kind of on the decline, like of the system that we're in is on the decline. And the proof is like showing how like with colonialism they've gone to every country that they possibly can and like destroyed the countries, like basically. And like how a lot of billionaires like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos are literally trying to go into space to figure out how to expand into space. We have nowhere else to expand, nowhere else for the system to go into, and so it's going to collapse in on itself. um, and so we talked a lot about like envisioning new aspects of certain like things that people need in a new world, like housing or water, or a new economy, a new education system. We talked a lot about that. And like something we noticed is that if people's basic needs are met, then a world where they can have everything they want can exist. But if they don't have basic needs met, then of course, like you're not going to be able to move forward from that. And I think that's the importance of like what Clark is trying to do with the money empowerment is like if we have the necessities that we as individuals need, which in our today's system has to be acquired through money, then we can be able to empower ourselves further. Yeah, that just shows like how there's so much problems in our society with um or kind of another example is with when we had got back to Boulder from this trip, we went and talked to Joe Neguse, who is the congressman for Boulders in this area's district, and we were talking to him a lot. We had talked to some detention center advocates, people that are like are against detention centers. And there was one person that had been detained in a detention center for 11 months, and they had talked about the importance of abolishing detention centers and how they're inhumane, and just like our system of immigration in this country and how it's so messed up. And we were talking to him a lot about that. And when we had asked him kind of about his his viewpoint on the abolition of all detention centers, because he believes in abolishing private detention centers, but not all. And he had mentioned how, like, he had asked us, like, what are we going to do with the people that commit violent crimes that aren't documented? Like, where are we going to put them? And we had challenged him to say, we don't want to like think within the set of this system. Like, we challenge ourselves to imagine a world where people's basic needs are met, so they're not needing to commit such violent crimes. You know, like, if in a world where people's basic needs are met, there would be a dramatic decrease in crime. And then from there, when something terrible or violent does happen, then we can figure out a rehabilitative way to deal with that. And so, yeah, I kind of tying all that in. I think it's tying to what you said, important to think outside of the system, but it's also important to figure out ways to meet our basic needs. And I think that's the impact that getting money in the immediate term has with Mama Bird, because we're like getting money in the immediate sense while empowering ourselves long term to create a better system where we don't need to rely on something like that in order to sustain ourselves. It's something that can be a normal part of lives, and like we don't have to have an organization just to like feel that way.
I kind of want to tie it back to you talking about the ripple effect in the beginning, and how uh, Mama Bird helping us kind of also helps the community. And we still do stuff that helps the community, and that's not like based on uplifting our team specifically. We do help, the Marbella community. Like, we had grad school, and we try to connect, past NCAS students to work for Mama Bird, so that way they can also gain that experience. And but by uplifting us and giving us, this money and this aid, it's also it is also helping our community as a whole. That's how I always see it. Whenever I have scholarships, or like, how will this money like impact you or like help you? And I'm like, it's not just helping me, it's also like helping my family. It's helping the Marbella community, because again, with that stability, and not having to worry about, paying for college tuition, not having to worry about these other issues when it comes to money, we can, totally put out our energy into being part of these programs. Like, you are able to learn all these things and being part of the summer program and being part of other programs and events at CU Boulder. And same with me, I'm able to, do a research project. I'm able to be part of these different organizations, and do these different things that, like, I do a lot of volunteering these weeks, and I'm not worried about like getting paid for it, and I'm not worrying about like financial needs, because I have that met, and I don't have to worry about paying for college either. So now that I have like that, stress out of the way, I'm able to do more of my time, and able to focus more on, creating change and learning, instead of, focusing on, getting money to get my college tuition paid, or getting money so that way I have books. I have a way to pay for my college books. And going back to the getting your basic needs met, I actually recently, I think a couple weeks ago, I had it actually Mama Bird wisdom interview with a girl named Hannah, and she works for the this place called the Welcome Village, where they create tiny little homes for people who are unhoused, specifically women and non-binary people and transgender women. So that way they have a place to call home. Because she said most people focus on, oh, they just need a job, or once they get a job, they'll be fine. Or if unhoused people just have like their mental needs met, they'll be able to find themselves a home. But she said that's not true, because if you don't have a home, how can you take the time to work on your trauma? How can you take the time to work on everything that has happened to you? So I think that's like a big part. Like, if you don't have a home, if you don't have food to eat, if you don't have all these things, how would you expect someone to, do all these other things? Because if you want a job, you need an address, and if you don't have a home, you can't have a job. It's like you just need these basic things to be able to kind of do well in the United States. And like you said, right now, most of us depend on organizations to help us, get there. But as you said, we all envision a future where everyone's like the basic needs are met and everyone has a place to stay at. Yeah, because it's hard. A lot of people go through a lot of stuff. And in the beginning of the summer, I was like, I'm going to do a little writing thing. And it was about trauma. And I talked to, I think, others about it. And something I was thinking about like adding to like my trauma list, because a lot of people talk about trauma this last few, I think since COVID has started, trauma has been like a big part. And I've noticed there's so many different types of trauma, and there's like systematic trauma, I think, that has really impacted a lot of people, along from just like family trauma and like self trauma. But like there's a lot of systematic and educational trauma that has happened that still impacts a lot of people. And I feel like Mama Bird is kind of trying to bring equity to that and uplift people, so that way to kind of like deal with that systematic trauma that has been inflicted and is still being inflicted onto many, many of us.
I think what you were saying about the woman who works to make tiny homes for unhoused people is a really good point. And it like makes me think about how we see that all the time with our own peers who don't have maybe the scholarships or the like, the resources that we have. And so like it's so much harder to like move forward in life. Like you get stuck in this endless loop, because how are you supposed to like move forward to the next phase of life if you're like figuring out each day like where to get enough money to pay rent or like get food and all that stuff. And so our society has just kind of set us up to live that way a lot of the time. And I think that like something like Mama Bird helps us to like break out of that loop by having that like immediate like resource, so that we can take that like step forward to break out of the loop. And then like you said, it has that impact on our communities by us doing it in a positive way and like making that positive impact so that others can continue to break that loop and that chain. And then you had touched on it a little bit, but like we also learn about sorry we also learn a lot from the wisdom interviews that we have done and continue to do. Are there any like tying into that overarching things that you have noticed that you learn a lot from doing wisdom interviews with other people?
Um, yeah, so these wisdom interviews, they're like, we've met so many different types of people who work in different types of fields, but I feel like there's always the same themes that always pop up in these interviews, and it's always about taking care of yourself and connecting with people. I think with American culture, there's this like individualistic, it's all about you and you getting ahead and you being independent. But with these interviews, I've learned the importance of family and friends and connection. That's what people talk about the most. No one is talking about every single successful thing they've done in their career. No one's talking about what they did in school or the programs they were part of. Everybody's talking about their families. They're talking about the places they've been with their families. They're talking about what they do for fun, what they like to do, their favorite movies, the songs they like to listen to. They're talking about life lessons they've learned from their grandparents, from just living and experiencing life. So yeah, so from these interviews, that's what like really resonates. It's that connection and kind of connecting back to what we were talking about, the basic needs being met and being in a capitalist state. It's hard to do that also without that support and connection. And a lot of people do feel alone, and a lot of people don't have that sense of community. And I think some of us take for granted that sense of community and having that support system. And I think Mama Bird is trying to create that community for people and trying to create this safe space for people to not feel alone and to feel like that they're being heard, they're being seen. We are trying to be as inclusive as possible with all types of people. And we're always constantly trying to educate ourselves and trying to change the way we say things. Again, connecting back to before I would say, instead of unhoused people, I would say homeless people. And I've learned kind of the difference between those two words. And yeah, Mama Bird is just trying to create this community, and I hope more people will realize how much like the importance of community is, because yeah, you could have everything, but not if you don't have that community and you feel alone and lost, that can really destroy, you know, someone's livelihood. I feel like, yeah, that connection is very important.
Yeah, I think what you were saying about like hearing what people talk about the most is really important, because I think we notice what's important to people based on what they talk about and remember. And so I agree. A lot of people don't talk about like, oh, I got this degree and this degree and, you know, got this position at this job. Like nobody talks about that. They talk about memories they have with people and their loved ones and their children and their grandchildren and their parents. That's what they talk about the most. And I think that just shows that like so much of what we think is important is in this productivity culture. And I think that's why it's important to remember to like have that boundary of like, it's important to empower ourselves in this way and like focus on moving forward in the world, but also realize that that's not the like that's not the only important thing, and it's not the most important thing of what we're trying to do. It's about like building those communities and those relationships for long-term work, so that it can be continued to be done over generations, and we can make changes in our world, so that people aren't living like the world isn't the way it is now in like a few generations, and so that like so we can have a positive impact. And I think it's important to remember that we're doing the work that we're like think about why we're doing the work we're doing, and if it's not to have a positive impact, then you know we have to wonder if it's what if I don't know. Yeah, like I think it just ties into this productivity culture that we have, and like trying to fight against that while also still trying to like be successful in a way and like you know make an impact. I think it's an interesting dichotomy, but it's something that we like learn a lot about in our wisdom interviews, is like what's important and what's not. um yeah, like that the importance on keeping those relationships with people and staying connected, especially in today's world when it's so easy to disconnect. I definitely learned a lot about that from the interviews I've done, because like life goes so fast. So yeah.
Something when you were talking reminded me of also back to the conversation I had with Hannah. She was talking about kind of like the toxic culture of nonprofits, and I think it kind of differs from Mama Bird and Mama Bird's mission. And we're working towards becoming a nonprofit. And Mama Bird is aware of, you know, like us as people, and is aware of our needs, and is able to give us that space that we need, and is able to like, because we have moms on the team, we have, you know, us college students, we have people with different types of lives and different types of backgrounds, and sometimes we all can't be fully there, and our attentions have to be put somewhere else. And she brought up a point how some other nonprofits organizations, since we are so committed to like helping people and so committed to bettering communities, that we kind of forget about our own mental health and our own wellness. And I thought that was very interesting, because yeah, with Mama Bird, I feel like at first I was trying to like put my all into it, but then Mama Bird brought up that this because we're also connected to the Center of Trauma and Resilience, and we provide that support for the community. We provide that support for people who need more than you know, because trying to help and make a change can take a lot out of someone, and sometimes people don't get it's not get paid to do that work, don't get paid to make a difference, or don't get paid to do that. And I don't think we should be sometimes, well, I think people should be able to still make a living while also making a difference, and not, you know, not every organization does that or provide that support that Margaret does. So I think it's pretty cool that we'll still be thought of, and we're still given these resources, while also trying to you know, help other people and trying to build this community. So yeah, I think that's a good part of the Margaret.
Yeah, I remember in one of my classes learning about the nonprofit industrial complex, which was really interesting to like hear about, because you see nonprofits as like just these good organizations, but there's so many negative things that they can be, or that they can do, and that they kind of continue to perpetrate, especially when it's more of like a reactive type of thing, where it's like not trying to solve a problem but just reacting to it, and like like at the end of the day benefiting off of that problem existing, because like the basis of the organization is based on the problem existing. And so it's kind of like something that nonprofits need to do a better job of addressing. And I like how you said Mama Bird like tries to break away from that by like addressing our mental and social needs and the importance of like taking care of ourselves so we can take care of others, and like trying to like create a solution that will actually solve the social problems that exist rather than just benefiting off of it and being reactionary to it. I think that's really important, and why it's so important, like why it's really cool to see like how other people are seeing the impact of Mama Bird through them voting for this grant and like being in this grant, and like why it's so important for work like this to continue to be funded, because there's not a lot of like organizations out there that truly like continue to stay like have that positive impact, because it's so easy to go down that road of being in that complex or being like perpetrating negative things. And so I agree. I think it's good that Mama Bird like works to stay unique in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, those interviews also help kind of create that difference. Because a lot of people are shocked that we learn a lot from these interviews and we benefit off of these interviews themselves. But yeah, the knowledge that people have, it's powerful to learn those stuff and they're life changing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to have like took that step to like decide to be a part of Mama Bird and work with it. And like I definitely was like nervous. I joined at the end of my freshman year. And so like my freshman year of college in general was like not very good. I didn't have a very like I didn't make a lot of like meaningful memories in the dorms because I came to a new environment and I didn't know how to really interact with people, especially first semester. And so I'm glad that I like had the opportunity to join Mama Bird because I feel like it's impacted me in so many ways beyond just Mama Bird, but just in every aspect of my life. And I've learned so much from the people I've interviewed, um, and just how precious life is, and like seeing the importance of like talking with people and reaching out while you can and building those relationships, and how important just that aspect is in social justice and how overlooked it can be. But it is really important to build those relationships so that like when a new world exists, we have those relationships to keep it sustained. So I think that work like Mama Bird is so important. It needs to continue to be supported and promoted, and I'm so glad that we have the chance to get this grant, and like we're seeing all of this awesome support, and it's really awesome to see that support from other people.
Yeah, it really is. And I think Mama Bird has a long way to go. I think this is only our first few years, first couple of years. It's even a couple of years. We started like last year. So like first year, going into our second year for Mama Bird. Um, and we're already making so much change. We're already seeing a lot of change, and we're seeing this community form with people. And I think, yeah, with this grant, it's just gonna take us even further. Keep pushing the limits that are here, and continue to help even more people and get more people on board because um, yeah, there's so many great people. Especially, I think that's one of the reasons I've joined Mama Bird in the beginning was Mama Bird recognized how talented the Montbello community is and the people in Montbello, but also we don't hear after that like what happened to us, like what happened to the graduates, what are they doing now? Because we we lack that. I feel like community with alumni, with the Montbello community, with Montbello students. We lack that support for students who have graduated because it's so much harder once you graduate. It's not the same. I think we focus too much on getting people in school and getting people into these positions, but we don't focus enough on keeping people, in these positions because it's very difficult and it's hard to find that support coming from a small community to like ours, like you were talking about your first year of college and how that was hard because it was hard to connect to people. Also, yeah, in schools you don't, it's not that, at least I know for CU Denver it is diverse, but it's not as diverse as it could be. I feel like we could have more representation at CU. um and it's hard to find that support and knowing where to go. And I feel like being part of Mama Bird, it has definitely helped me. Learning from you, learning from Clark, and everybody who supports us, knowing where to go in college. Some of the interviews I've done, they would tell me, okay, so your first year of college, this is what you focus on. By your second year, make sure you're trying to get an internship, make sure you're trying to do this and that. And these things I didn't even think about. I was like, okay, you just go in, go to your classes, and that's that. Try to ace them, and that's all of college. But the reason I'm so engaged in the CU community, the reason I'm active and try my best to participate in different organizations and leadership programs at CU is because of Mama Bird. Because at first my like vision was like, okay, I just go in, get my degree, and then that's that. But from being part of Mama Bird, I've joined the Student Government Association my first year. And this year I'm a peer advocate leader helping other students transition from high school to college. So that way, we increase that retention rate with students. I was part of this LEAP leadership program. And it's just like all these different things wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Mama Bird pushing me out of my comfort zone and, exploring these different aspects of life.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like what you were saying about this disconnect from high school to college that we have in our community. And I hope that that's an impact that Mama Bird has on our community is like, I've already seen that kind of with the grad school that we did, where we were reaching out to alumni and kind of bringing that community back together and empowering ourselves, no matter whether we were in college or not, just working. And I think it's important to like find ways to do stuff like that and continue to do stuff like that. And so I hope that that's a benefit of this grant, is like allowing us to do more things that can pull community together and allow us to bridge that gap that there seems to be, because I think that's also important. And so I am glad that it has had such an impact already, and that like the visions that we talked about in those first original meetings when we were brainstorming on Google Docs are like kind of coming to fruition. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, it is. And again, it's like been a year and a half, a year and a quarter. And all these things that we envisioned, and we took so many time. Like we would wake up so early at like the weekends and drafting and writing contracts and learning about how to run a business and meeting with a lawyer, all these different things. It's nice to see that foundation that we have set is still, uplifting people. Even though Mama Bird was on a short little break and we were all doing our own things this summer, that foundation that we laid out in the beginning of Mama Bird is still keeping us thriving. Is still keep helping other people. So yeah, it's cool that. And again, I'm surprised it's the first year, so can't wait to see where it takes us, where we go.
Yes, I'm definitely excited to see the work we continue to do. And that's why this stuff like this grant and like building relationships with community are so important. And so it's like reinvigorates energy to like have opportunities like this, and just to see the ways the community can come together to support us and like each other. So I'm excited to see the ways that we continue to move forward.
Me too. Yeah, this grant, I know this grant will help us a lot, and not just our team, but the community as a whole. Mama Bird is continually looking for ways to help and be different, and we're not about trying to make profit off of like you said, problems. We're actually trying to fix problems, and we're trying to change the narrative of mental health, of all these stereotypes that people associate with the Montbello community and the people from Montbello. We're constantly trying to empower and uplift each other, and this grant will continue. This grant is just an investment to us and our community, and to all those amazing young people who need that resource. And Mama Bird is always trying to find ways to provide that for our community.
Yay. I don't know if there was any other topics we wanted to cover or anything we didn't mention.
We check. Okay. Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job covering.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording now so that Clark won't have too much